Welcome to Driving the Lane with Randy Kraayenbrink and Chuck Rowe, a podcast presented by News Talk 1540 KXEL. Now, Driving the Lane.
Welcome to Driving the Lane. Randy Kraayenbrink, Chuck Rowe, the show where we talk about mostly one thing and one thing only, and that is
Panther basketball.
Now, it's important that we remind you that although we are the official UNI basketball show for News Talk 1540 KXEL, our comments may not reflect those of our friends at UNI. However, Randy is a former player, and I just simply hope that UNI wins their next game. So this show is as official as it's going to get. We also want to let you know that portions of the show can be heard on KXEL, with the entire show found on their website. And as always, we have a great show for the week. We have former player Steve Phyfe, and then we're going to finish off with the Financial Architect's quote of the week. Let's get started. Randy joining us today, drum roll please. The man once known as Steve Phyfe, but now known as Austin's dad. Thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, and you are 100% correct about being Austin. That's for sure.
So you had a great career at UNI. Did you do anything basketball related, like after college, and maybe tell folks what you're doing now?
Yeah, I was very fortunate and very blessed after, I had a great career at UNI. A lot of personal successes, some huge team successes at UNI. Was on the 90 team that beat Iowa in the Dome in front of 23,000 people, largest crowd to watch a basketball game in the state. Made the NCAA tournament, beat Missouri the first round, lost to Minnesota by 3 in the second round. So a lot of good successes there. I was really blessed because I was able to play professionally for 10 years. When you tell people, they say, did you play for the Bulls? Did you play for the Lakers? Who'd you play for? I was like, no, I played for the Tasmanian Devils and, the Orsona Toros and things like that. So I was able to travel the world and play the game of basketball and get paid for it, which was unbelievable. I did that for 10 years. So when I got back, I had to get a real job. Unfortunately, not playing for the Lakers, the Bulls. I didn't make the millions of dollars, so I still have to work. So I had a 16-year stint with Shields Sporting Goods, great family-owned company that I worked for a community bank in Waverly for about 5 years, and now I'm with Martin Brothers in my third year at Martin Brothers, and truly blessed to be here and work in their HR department and lead that. I have a great team, and the Martin family is great, and it's just more than the Martins. It's the whole 650 employees that we have. So,
well, during your international career, I mean, that's a pretty long time, 10 years. What was it that made you finally say, you know what, I need to get that real job? I mean, Randy also did international for
2 weeks.
Game. Yeah. So
2 weeks.
so
yeah, Randy, Randy had the offensive part down. He just couldn't figure out anything else. He couldn't figure out the defensive part. When they're paying you cold hard cash, they like the whole package. So not that I got the whole package by any means. I'm not saying that. I could at least block a shot here and there.
You had more of the package than I had.
Yeah, 10 years is a long time doing it, and I think the reason I was so successful doing it is my wife and we immersed ourselves in the culture wherever we went. We tried to learn the language. We tried to get to know the people and immerse ourselves. And I think the people that we played for and the communities that we played for really appreciated that. And I had multiple multi-year contracts, which was nice. But those darn kids, they eventually get to a certain age and they feel they have to go to the kindergarten and start school and all that. I mean, I could play for another 30 years, I think, but those kids kind of get in the way. But our daughter was at the kindergarten age, and we just figured, hey, it was time to hang up the sneakers and go on with the next chapter in our lives. Now, our daughter was very fortunate. My last 2 years I played was in Chile, and so she would have been 3 and 4 at the time. And she actually went to, and this is a crazy story, she actually went to a German school in Chile. It was a private school, so she attended 2 years there as a preschooler. So she, at that time, German was a little hard for her, but she was, as any 3 or 4 year old can speak, she was fluent in English and Spanish, and throw in a couple of German words there. So that was pretty exciting. We'd have some friends come over and the kids would be playing and she'd be rattling stuff off in Spanish and then talk to us in English and things like that. And at that time, when we hung it up, people said, "Oh, just keep her immersed in the Spanish language, and have her, take classes and stuff." Well, they didn't realize that we live in, rural America, and they just don't have a lot of, foreign language classes at the elementary age. So unfortunately, she's lost a lot of that, as my wife and I have as well. Now I still know a lot of the food in Spanish, and I know a lot of the swear words in Spanish. So I got that going.
Like taco and burrito, it's really hard to remember. Yeah.
The race of manual and all that, it's all good. So.
Well, obviously, what we really want to talk to you about is your kids, mainly your son. But I know you're very proud of both of those kids, and that shows. Obviously, you gave up a little basketball to come back to America and have them go to school. I don't think it's a secret anymore, but I think Austin had the aspirations of doing exactly what you did, and possibly still has those aspirations. I did hear that some of the some of the Drake fans kind of gave him a hard time because he only could run up and down the floor 3 or 4 or 5 times. So then he had to sit back on the bench. And so maybe you could share to all 3 of our Drake basketball listeners out there, kind of Steve, Austin's story a little bit, and then kind of where maybe you're headed with that, and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's let's start with the Drake fans. I mean, the Drake student section is good, bad, or indifferent. They get into the games. They are a rowdy group, and they support their team no matter what. And yes, they gave Austin a very hard time. Obviously, right now Austin can only play 2 or 3 minutes, and then he's gassed. But yeah, they were calling him, an old, oversized man, out of shape, all of this type of stuff. And hey, it's a good, it's a good heckling technique. But yeah, Austin struggled this year. He had it's not a secret by any means. Just go to a UNI game and you can kind of see it. But it is funny to listen to some of the national when they're on national TV and some of those announcers that don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
And things like that. But it's good. But Austin did have COVID in July. It was very minor doubts whether he did lose his smell and things like that, but wasn't sick at all. And when the season started, his conditioning just wasn't there, and it was just, hey, work through it, that type of deal. And he if you watched the first few games of the year, you could tell he just wasn't himself. Basically what he was doing is he was pacing himself because he wanted to play the minutes and be out there and do what he could for the team. But unfortunately, he's probably hurting the team more than he was helping him because he wasn't crashing the offensive boards. He wasn't diving on the floor. He wasn't doing those things they needed to do to be a good teammate. Well, about 6 or 7 games into it, we took him back in, and then that's when they realized he was dealing with long haul COVID and had some scarring in one of his lungs. So Jake, Austin, and I had a great talk as far as moving forward and what we could do. And the biggest thing was obviously taking him out of the starting lineup, which, if you don't know Austin's a kid that's going to run through a brick wall for the team to win. And if that's what he needed to do for the team to continue to get better, obviously he was 100% for it. And Jake and the coaching staff has done a great job with his minutes. Once he, everyday life, he's fine. I mean, he can do whatever. He has no problems. But once he steps on that court and starts to try to play a collegiate basketball game, his lung capacity isn't there for it. And you can notice that he plays 2 or 3 minutes, or sometimes 4 or 5 minutes. And then that last 30 seconds is pretty tough for him. Jake's even told him, hey, if you have to foul to stop the play because there isn't a referee whistle or whatever, do it. But he's not hurting because of it. It's just, I know he's hurting mentally because it's very frustrating. I know it's very, very frustrating for him. It's frustrating for the coaching staff. It's very frustrating for the fans. We realize that's frustrating for his mom and his sister and our family as well, knowing that, the team's playing great. Of course, me being the dad I am, I've said, hey, the team's actually playing better now that you're only playing 10 minutes a game. So
I'm sure he appreciates that.
let's just say it the way it is. But the team has really picked up. They're supporting him a lot. And he's doing what he can. I'm sure you'll see on the bench, he's up cheering and trying to get the crowd going, and talking to the guys when they come off the floor, especially the bigs, and just trying to keep that positive attitude and keep a smile on his face. He did an interview for a national article a while back. It was just released a couple days ago, and there's other people in the country that are dealing with it. This article was specifically toward collegiate or high level athletes. And if they focused on Austin, as well as, I can't remember the young lady's name, but she's in the WNBA who's dealing with the same thing. And I think that's helping him a little bit, especially from a mentality standpoint, that he realizes he's not on an island, he's not by himself. And you go to the games, UNI games, and he'll get out there a couple of minutes, you see him dive on the floor, you see him doing this, and he comes out and the crowd's just very appreciative of the work that he does. And that's what UNI is. We were watching actually last night, my wife and I were watching the Air Force Boise State game, and Austin went out to Air Force for a visit, and he obviously decided not to go there. And we talked about it. It's like, well, just imagine if he was out there going through this, and we were back here in Iowa. We are very blessed that he's basically 25 minutes from his apartment to home. So being able to be that close and be with him through the process, it's good.
I think you're also blessed that you have a wife that just wants to watch basketball with you. Where do you find one of those?
I tell you what, like, the biggest Dodger fan in the world. Her dad was a major Dodger fan, and he was a big fan. So, which I'm not going to lie to you, baseball, yeah, I enjoy baseball if it's the World Series, or if I go to a game and I can drink an adult beverage and eat some peanuts. That's how I like baseball. But 11 o'clock at night, 11:30, the Dodgers play, and on the West Coast, there's some late night baseball games as well that she loves, and then of course she's a Packer fan. So yeah, she loves her sport, so it is good.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Well, Randy, I guess we need to figure something out with Karen and Marla, I suppose. But
yeah, too late to trade them in.
So, but as a father, though, it's been it's just with your son, just very random ailments he's had in his career at UNI that you just don't see very often. So as a father, was it harder the first time around or the second time around seeing him?
Well, I think the first time around, it took us so long, and we didn't know what that was at all. I mean, it was just, I've told numerous people here, knock on wood, you don't want to say this about anybody, but if it was an ACL or a broken arm or something like that, there's a time frame, that, hey, it's going to take 6 weeks, it's going to take 8 weeks. Once you get to this point, the cast comes off, you start rehabilitating, things like that. With his vasovagal syncope a couple of years ago, and now the long haul COVID and his scarring in his lungs, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. So that's the next phase right now. Obviously, the doctors, told us they wanted us to shut him down and to see where they could take it. Long haul COVID is so new. We don't know what the effects of COVID is going to be 20 years from now with people and things like that. So it's so new. So they wanted us to shut him down, and so they could get into a baseline and figure out what's going on and see what we can do for him. Well, obviously, I mean, we're in the heat of the battle, with the season, and we just basically said, is it going to hurt him to play? And then the doctor said, no, it's not going to hurt him by any means. And so we basically decided as a family that we're going to do what he can this season, and the coaching staff and him are doing a great job of managing these minutes and being able to do what he can. Obviously, we all want him to be able to play a little bit more and bang in there a little bit more and bring some more things, but he can do what he can do. And then after the season, we'll reach back out to some specialists and just see what can be done. What's the next step? And Austin and I, we've had some heart-to-heart conversations and just said, you know what, this may be it. I mean, he does. He wants to play over, he wants to play overseas. He wants to play at that next level. He wants to get paid for playing a game that he loves. And he's worked so hard to get to where he's at. But he also realizes every day in everything, not just in sports, but businesses, things happen that the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. And you have to switch gears and go in a different direction. And Austin's the type of kid that handles it very, very well, especially on the outside, as far as making those changes and knowing what he needs to do. And he'll always have a smile on his face. I don't care what's going on. He will have a smile on his face. And he'll move forward with it. So, hopefully we can get it resolved this summer. He's got another year left. If he wants to come back to UNI, I don't think it's his 17th year it'd be or something like that, but it seems like forever. Jake offered him a scholarship after his freshman year in high school, and he was going to UNI games even before that. So people have known Austin for a long, long time. So it does seem like he's been there forever. But he does have another year of eligibility. We'll make that decision. He will make that decision once we get some feedback from some doctors and if this is something that he can overcome and figure out.
I think our viewers out there kind of understand, but they don't realize that it's a job. What they're going through, these student athletes are going through. I mean, it's a full-time job on top of going to school, and then to be able, or then not to be able to perform at your maximum level has to be a little frustrating. And so, I think anybody out here, Panther Nation, would respect or understand, whatever Austin's decision is, whether to come back or whether to, hang it up and, as you would say, get a real job. And I think we would all respect that, just because of, if you can't do it at the peak, at the level you want to do it at, that's difficult.
Yeah, and I think Panther Nation, I know, would definitely understand. And he doesn't want to take away a spot, where, potentially, the coaching staff could go out and recruit someone and do whatever. He would never do that, just to be on the team. He's just not that type of kid. And the good thing is, Austin's a place in his life and his career. He's had to make tough decisions all the way through. Do I play football in high school or don't I? Do I do this? Do I do that? And he's made all those decisions. Obviously, Lisa and I have counseled him and told him the goods and the bads. But obviously, at the end of the day, it's his decision on what's the next thing. But we're there to support him, and I know Panther Nation is as well. They've been very, very supportive of him, as you can see at the games when he comes out or whatever. And then with his mom and I, it's just a constant. People are always asking questions, and is he better? Is he better tonight? Is he ready to go? And he's ready to go, but it's still going to be that 2 or 3 minutes stretch, and it all depends on what that 2 or 3 minute stretch looks like and the opportunities that he's given. But he's going to go out and give it his 100% of what he has now to help the team win. So
yeah.
Well, let me switch something up if I could, and that is Randy is the number 2 all-time scorer at UNI. You could have probably.
I remind him of that often, but go ahead.
There is no doubt that Steve probably could have been number 1, but he made this mistake and went to Oral Roberts first. What led you to Oral Roberts, and what made you decide then to come to UNI?
Oral Roberts, when I was a junior in high school and a senior in high school, they came up and saw every single one of my high school basketball games. They had someone from the university, and it wasn't always the coach. They would have somebody else here. They came up and saw every single one of my games. At the time when I signed with them, about my senior year, Dick Akers was the head coach, and his sons, Mark and Jeff, had just went through, and I think Mark made it to the NBA, was drafted, late one of the rounds or whatever. And Dick was there, and they also had an assistant coach by the name of John Block. He was a 6'11" guy. He had, I think, 7 or 8 years of NBA experience. So I just felt, number one, I think I wanted to get away a little bit, break away from Iowa and see what else was out there. And then the coaching staff was very, very strong. I knew they wanted me, and I knew that potentially I could grow and become the player that I wanted to be, with their help. And it was a great year. I mean, I learned a lot that year, not only basketball, but growing up and everything else. It was a good move. But unfortunately, after my senior year, Coach Akers and the rest of the coaching staff left, and it was, he resigned, and, his sons were done playing, and he went a different direction. And whenever you bring in a new coaching staff, you never know where you're going to get. And Ted Owens was the coach, who I believe was at Kansas State, maybe. But anyway, he came in and he called me right away and said, "Hey, we still want you to come. We watch game tape, that type of stuff. We still love to have you on the team." It just wasn't the same, me being there. And so I was actually going to transfer at that time, Jim Barry was at UNI. And I had taken, Jim had recruited me out of high school, and, I came down for a visit, and it just wasn't at that time, just wasn't really what I wanted. And then after, when I knew I was going to transfer, Colorado State was always my second choice. And so I kind of, contacted them, and that's where I was going to go. Well, then Eldon came on board at UNI. And at the time I was back in Iowa, and actually Kevin Boyle called me and said, "Hey, Steve, we want to see what your plans are." And I hadn't signed my letter of intent or anything at Colorado State yet. And, is your recruiting still open? I was like, "Well, this is where I'm at." It's like, "Well, Coach Miller would like to meet you." And, so it's a great story. I was playing in a rec league up in Charles City, just with a bunch of boys I know, a bunch of guys I know. And I said, "Yeah, I'm playing, Thursday night up at the rec center in Charles City if you want to come on up." And sure enough, Eldon and Kevin, Coach Boyle walk in the gym and, watch me play. And I did fairly well, I would think. My team knew who was coming, and they knew where the ball needed to go, and from that standpoint. And then Eldon,
obviously I wasn't there, Steve.
Correct, exactly, Randy.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, great story, and then obviously, kind of the rest is history. But yeah, blessed to be there. But I know where you're going, Chuck. I know where you're going with the story. As far as Austin's only, my wife tells me, like, every game, it's like now he's like 18 points away from the points that I had. And she had to call me yesterday or whatever it was. And she goes, "Hey,
That's awesome.
The website, and they list everybody, and they have you listed, and now Austin's right below you. There's nobody in between you. Isn't that so cute?" And I was like, "Yes, honey, that's like the cutest thing ever." And it is a big deal. Obviously, it's not a big deal for Austin. He could care less. I mean, just, you want what's best for your kids, and I want what's best for Austin, and yeah, the little side things like the scoring and things like that. Yeah, it's neat. Of course, people say, "Well, do you want him to beat you, or have more points than you do?" I was like, it doesn't matter. He's been there for like 18 years. I only played 3. So I mean, it doesn't really, so I'm always going to have something. But of course, I want him to, I wish he could have 3,000 points, and but more importantly, we want a Missouri Valley Conference regular season championship. We want to go down to St. Louis and take it at them. We've been robbed the last couple of years, and do some work down there, and get to the tournaments, and that's what I really want for him, to be able to feel that, and that this team has been through a lot, and it'd be
Right.
easy for him to do that.
So changing gears a little bit. So I don't think we've ever touched on the transfer portal. So back in the day when you left Oral Roberts, you didn't get to enter the transfer portal. And you're going to know more about this than I am, because obviously Austin has heard about the transfer portal. They talk about the money that people are getting paid to get out of however that works, right? So share a little bit, maybe the pros and cons of this transfer portal. And now they're paying kids to play the game in college, basically. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, back in the day when I transferred, obviously it was, you're on your own. If you're going to transfer, you had to reach out. No, I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's some players out there that, got recruited the second time. It's not like I threw my name out in the hat and said, "Hey, I'm open, come recruit me again if you want."
Yes.
I kind of knew what I wanted and reached out to those people and started the process there. But when I got to UNI, I had to sit out a year. When when you transferred, you had to sit a year. There was no, hey, this is the reason I transferred. So, okay, so the NCAA grants this person, yeah, you don't have to sit out because of this, but you have to sit out because of that. No, it was like everybody had to sit out. And a year when you transferred, obviously now it's what the door is wide open, good, bad, or indifference. I get it. I see the player standpoint. The coaches can leave. They have nothing holding them. They can leave. Why can't the players? It's not a good mix. I mean, sometimes it's not going to be, when I went to a Roberts, I was there for a year. Yep. Learned a lot, whatever, but I needed to change. Okay. So it was that way. Now, how the rules are now that there's you have to sit out a year or whatever. I'm glad I sat out a year. It helped me. If you remember back in the day, I was 6'9", I graduated high school 6'9", $180, and, played at UNI at 200 pounds, maybe 210. And, at the pro level, I was at 220, 225. I'm about 230, 232 right now, but yeah, I'm
But you're stronger.
Yeah, but I'm stronger. Yeah. And I guarantee I have a lot more than 230, 232 too. But so the transfer portal, it is what it is. I'm sure it's very hard for the coaching staffs you don't know who's coming back. You don't know what's happening. You could have a kid leave tomorrow, but it's what leaves, you never know what you get in as well. It's just definitely a different environment than it was even 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about as you're getting older, something that's interesting is during halftime, both of you guys go out there during that one game a year, kind of do the Miss America wave to everybody. And this is the first year that some of these younger guys, that were like teammates with your son, like Spencer and Dahl was on there. Was that strange seeing those guys on there with you?
I was just happy this year that Lucas O'Rear wasn't there, because what always happens, I stay in, this year they did a little bit differently, but normally they said put you out there in alphabetical order, and I'm always right behind Lucas. Well, he was such a fan favorite that when they announce his name and the place goes crazy, and while the place is going crazy, they announce my name, and then it's the next guy. So it's like Lucas, you stop coming to these things. I get no notoriety. I'm out there, I'm waving, and it's still the screams from him. But it's awesome, to see Spencer and Miles and Lincoln and those guys that were back this last time. But I know people hear this all the time, but it is a family, period, plain and simple. If you're part of that, it is truly a family. Jake does a super job of trying to involve the alumni. He has the alumni golf outing, we get together. It's just a blast to be able to, I met, and I cannot remember his name. I'm terrible at names, but the gentleman who wore number 50 when he played, many years ago, and he was at the last one. I'd never met him before. And my wife and his wife were up in the alumni suite talking at halftime, and it came out that her husband wore number 50, and I wore 50. Now my son's wearing number 50. So it's just those connections and getting to know those people, and it's really, really cool to do that, and then be able to be acknowledged by the Panther Nation and things like that. It's a fun time. My wife, once again, she says, isn't it going to be cool that you and Austin can both walk out there together? Yeah, now great. So Austin's going to be in front of me. Everybody's going to like him, because he's, a newer guy. He's been around, he's a Panther Nation fan. They're going to be all cheering for him. And then, they're going to announce my name because I'm an S. So it's going to be, it's a lose for me.
Well, it's too bad that's the case because, obviously you had a great career at UNI and the teams that, you had like Jason Reese, James Parker, Greg McDermott, Nick Nurse. You had all these players on your team that you guys were scoring bunches. Like you said, you had some success in the postseason. You did some great things. I guess, is it a fair statement to say that it was probably one of the most fun teams you've ever played on in your life? With those kind of scores.
Yeah, Chuck, it's, you've been asked questions like that a lot, as far as, what was your favorite, favorite game or your favorite team or this and that. And, obviously I was very, very successful in high school as well. I want to say championship, so you have that. And, that team, won a school, and, we went 6'9", 6'9", 6'7", 6'5", it was just unheard of. And, then I get to college and have the success that we had there. And, really it was, the success came from basically December to March was where things kind of switched for us that year. We were, a mediocre team, middle of the standings. It was the first year for the tournament and the automatic bid. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have made the tournament, so everything just kind of clicked and fell in place. But yeah, playing alongside Jason and Maurice and Dale and Cedric and Troy Muhlenberg, and being able to play with Nick Nurse and Greg McDermott, played a year with him, yeah, you look back at it and go, wow, it was kind of the glory time, in my age, from a team standpoint. And now I'm at the stage of my life, and Panther Nation is kind of the stage of their life where they remember that, so it's every anniversary of that team, we try to get together and do what we can. And it's I've been blessed, that's for sure.
Well, I'm not sure you've ever been asked this. They've asked you about your favorite teams. I'm sure your wife and probably your kids are going to be watching this. So could you maybe tell us who your favorite child is?
My favorite child?
Yeah, your favorite child. Is it Austin or is it Afton?
Randy, I would probably have to say you, maybe. Childish demeanor on a
I just throw that out there.
There's obviously, as a parent, you can't answer that question. There isn't one, but I'm
kidding.
Totally blessed, and my daughter's getting married this summer. We're very excited for her and Jacob to tie the knots and have him part of our family. We're very blessed for that, and we're excited. She's back in the pool now, swimming in the master's program, and we'll probably qualify for the national meet in Texas, and that's going to be in April. We're excited to go down and support her and do that, and it's just different. Both kids, like I said, yeah, we're blessed. Just like you are with your grandkids in the back picture there. So
absolutely right. Yep. I will say this: it'll be important that Austin passes you on that list, because when the grandkids come around, then it will be important that he's ahead of you.
Okay.
It'll be important there.
Okay.
They won't care either.
Well, hopefully, hopefully he smashes it and gets over that 1,000, whether it's this year or he comes back for another year, does that. That's absolutely, that's a big milestone. It is funny because, obviously AJ's climbing the charts quick, in the scoring. And I always thought, when AJ, came in and committed to UNI, it's like, hey, how cool is it going to be that I played with the leading scorer in UNI history with Jason. And, Austin has a chance to potentially play with the leading scorer in UNI history with AJ. Basically, absolutely. What that means is we're great on defense. We passed the ball a lot. We just got out of everybody's way. That's basically what all that means.
Well, I have a final statement and then a question for you is that, one, it's very factual that when you finished at UNI, the team went from winning seasons to all of a sudden 13 wins. So one could attribute that to Steve leaving the team. It's very obvious. That's the statement. But then the last question I have for you is that once you graduated UNI, so no one necessarily on your team and no one before you, so that way you don't need to feel uncomfortable, say Randy or anything like that. Who are your favorite 3 UNI players, not including your son either, that you've ever watched on a UNI team after you graduated?
Wow. Whew. I was lucky enough. I did get to see Randy play in a lot of different avenues, at UNI, and Randy and I played a lot of rec ball afterwards.
Yeah.
And so I really did enjoy that. And Randy was a great offensive skilled player, and I always give him a hard time about defense and things like that. But he did have the total package. But from the current standpoint, after I left, it was fun to come back and those first couple of years, Cam Johnson, Dale and Cedric's, final year at UNI was good. And I think just because they were on the team, but, there isn't, the Randy Blockers, Ali, all of them, all the big names, but more importantly, I think it's the eras, it's the teams throughout the years. I think UNI is really, you got the Sweet 16 team, you have all the NCAA teams. It's just the constant what the university is doing, what the coaching staff is doing throughout all those years is for me, is more fun. People say, well, who's your favorite NBA player? It's like, you know what? I don't have a favorite NBA player. I really don't like the NBA until it gets to playoffs or whatever, and then maybe I watch it. I'm a collegiate basketball guy, so it's, it's not from a player standpoint. It's not for me from there. It's just more of a team thing. Is what's it look like? I just enjoy the game of basketball, and the game of basketball has changed a lot. Look at the offense now. Hey, let's go to the post. You go to the other post. You set a screen for that guy. That guy comes across, and you go to the high post. That's my. That's me. And it's totally different now, and the game has changed, good, bad, or indifferent. But I enjoy it. And I enjoy the athleticism that these kids got now is unbelievable. Austin and I, we did a thing for KWL. I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before, and they came out to the house and did a piece on us, playing one-on-one, in the driveway. And we weren't going hard at it, and then they said, hey, well, go hard a couple times so we get some. Austin put a forearm shiver into my chest. I had to go in the house because I couldn't breathe. Seriously, it was like, dude, where did that come from? He's like, Dad, that was nothing. I'm like, okay, you win. It's over. So yeah, it's just what they go through now. Randy mentioned it. It's a job. It is a job. It's 12 months out of the year, and some people understand that, but it's tough. Back in my day, I actually could get a job in the summer.
Yeah.
And do that. And you play pickup ball at night. Now it's 2 to 4 hours a day in the off season, in the weight room and things like that. It's a full-time job. Austin commented the other day, he has a great group of high school friends that come to watch him play. One of those Austin Yant, who wrestles for UNI, was in Austin's class, and they do a lot together. He's missed out on a lot of those activities since high school, which everybody does somewhat, but it's because he has he has a schedule that he has to go to. It's a full-time job. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see how this year unfolds. We have tough 3 games left in the season. Luckily, 2 of those games are going to be at home. So the more people we can get in the seats to help support them against Missouri State and Loyola. Loyola won a tough one by 2 points last night. Obviously, we were hoping it would have went the other way, but that's the Valley this year for sure. And we won at Illinois State by 2. So it's just one of those things. But see how the regular season finishes out, and then go down to St. Louis. And Austin had a great couple games out in Hawaii, and we think maybe that was because of the weather, because of a little bit warmer weather. So maybe this cold weather is having some issues on them. So we're hoping it's like 60, 65 degrees when we get to St. Louis, and hopefully that will maybe help help with that or do whatever. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, and the great thing, Randy, is once Austin does graduate, Steve could probably save a few bucks on tickets, because he could just volunteer and be an usher, since he just stands up there on the deck anyway, right?
Exactly.
Man, I tell you what, it's, Lisa and I love going to high school games, or we went to a couple of Wartburg games, and we just sit back and relax, like, oh, this is what it's like not to have to worry about. And we love our family. We, tons of support from our family and friends and things like that. But it's just, who's coming, who needs tickets, how can we get more tickets, how can we do this, and you're right, Chuck, it is. It's a, it's an usher type deal, making sure everybody's taken care of. We want them to have the best experience possible, and yeah, it's been fun.
Awesome. Steve, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time, and you are blessed. You have a great wife, great kids, and obviously, you know, you're gonna have some in-laws join you, so which is great. But we wish you the best, and thanks for joining us.
Now, as everyone knows, we usually do our Midwest Studies Group nonprofit of the week, but this week we wanted to just simply remind everyone to just go out there and make a difference. Now, a good friend of ours, Randy, Mac McCausland, known for his Hawkeye fame, recently passed away. And what a lot of people don't know is that he was super active in the community, being on boards, raising money, etc. And you know that. I mean, he was like a real big part of the Boys and Girls Club, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. No,
so
we lost we lost a good one there, and obviously his family are in our prayers, and you know, just as you said, you know, there's things that he supported, not for profit, and we need to remember that, because we never know when we're going to get called home.
So, yeah, and that's a great point, and that's why it's so important that we didn't want to have a guest this week. We just wanted to really push the idea that as a great big salute to Mac, even if he was a Hawkeye, remind everyone to just get out there and make a difference, right?
Yep.
So that brings us to the part of the week that everyone has been waiting for, the financial architect's quote of the week.
All right, and kind of ties in. If you listen close, you'll get it. Families are like branches on a tree. We grow in different directions, yet our roots remain as one.
Hey, I'll tell you how this is a great quote for me. Not that you asked, but I'm going to tell you anyways. Is that you know, I grew up in Jersey, moved away from home, and for so long, my parents and we did not live close to each other at all. Yet we always loved each other. We knew that we were still family, even though we were even across the country. Now my parents live in Iowa. We actually celebrated my dad's 75th birthday last week. So happy birthday, Dad, again. But being close together, I don't think it made a difference if we love each other more or less, because we have the same root, but it's great being by them, though. I got to mention that. So yeah, that's awesome. That's a great quote. Love it. Awesome. So, well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Catch you next week. Enter the closing music.